Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
Right.
Alright, Mike, so we've just seen the 1974 version of Murder on the Orient Express, directed by Sidney Lumet. Yep. What did you think? Has it changed your mind about the first one at all?
Starring everybody. It hasn't exactly changed my mind. It's certainly illuminating. I liked it.
Uh-huh.
I enjoyed it.
Did you think it was better?
In some respects. It's not a simple thing. They're different takes on the story, aren't they? I do like the character focus, the specific character focus on Poirot that the new film has, that this film doesn't.
Uh-huh.
I know that you've been saying, because we're chatting obviously all the way through the film, and you're saying to me, well, that's not what Poirot's supposed to be or whatever, which I kind of get, but that doesn't mean I can't appreciate what I liked about the new one.
Yes, okay.
I prefer in the 74 version, I prefer the big summing up, here's how I explain the crime scene, because it's half an hour long, whereas it's probably 8 minutes long in the new film, and it happens too quickly. There are elements that I prefer in the new one. Well, not prefer exactly, but I appreciated when Poirot says, here's how the crime happened, and it shows you in flashback the actual real events of the previous night. In the new film, it happens very quickly. And when Johnny Depp's character is stabbed, it's rushed, and it's you really feel the pain of the characters doing it coming out through how rapid the scene is and the editing. Whereas in this, it's staged and it's managed, and everyone has a line to say before they stab him. So it's different, and I think you feel the pain of the characters less. Though it's not to say you don't feel it. I think you still understand why they're doing this, and that it's not something they would ordinarily do, but it feels more vengeful.
Okay.
The characters in this.
What do you think of the way that the stars are presented in comparing the two films?
Well, I'm familiar with fewer of the stars in this one.
Okay.
So maybe that's something to do with it, but as you were saying, once I got kind of tuned in to the way the film's shot, particularly early on, before anything's happened, as the characters are settling into the train, and the way that the shots are staged in depth, so you have this world that's alive, where you've got a couple of characters chatting away in front of you, but in the background the other stars are hanging out, having their conversations. It's a real-time world in which other things are happening and people are living real lives. Whereas, the new film, and most films really, just feel like everything's on screen for you at that moment. Films don't tend to feel like their worlds are real.
Yes.
Quite that much. And this film, I think, has that.
I mean, I agree with that, but that's not quite what I was getting at.
Okay.
I mean, I was getting at the way that the stars are presented. There, so each of the person who helps commit the murder is given a scene, is given a moment. They're given an entrance, they're given an exit.
Oh, yeah.
They're given a line at the moment of the murder. Yeah, i.e., they're really presented.
Yes, they are. This film has more of a focus on. Well, as we said right at the start of the film, the new film opens with Poirot solving a case in Egypt that kind of clues you into he's the great detective.
Yeah.
And this film starts off with the kidnapping of the baby.
Yes.
So this film is about the case.
Yes.
And the characters that all relate to the case are the important thing, and Poirot is the guy who just moves it along.
Yes, he tells you the story in a way.
Yeah. And the new film is obviously about Poirot figuring it out, and it's much more about his character and what he deals with in figuring out the case and then deciding that he will not tell anybody.
Who did you like better in each of the films?
Well, we were talking about Lauren Bacall versus Michelle Pfeiffer. That was your big one, because you had a good idea earlier on of who you preferred from each film, playing the characters. But
I'm asking you now, because now that you've seen them both, what do you think?
I certainly prefer Michelle Pfeiffer. I prefer Josh Gad to Anthony Perkins. I prefer Olivia Colman, I think, to
Rachel Roberts.
Rachel Roberts. I prefer the very, very old woman to Judi
Wendy
Dench.
Hiller, yes.
Yes.
That was one of mine. I agree with you there.
Who else is there? I
There's
prefer John Gielgud.
yes.
Although that's kind of close. I mean, John Gielgud is excellent, but
well, my view is Derek Jacobi's excellent, but John Gielgud's a genius.
yeah,
I mean, you know.
yeah, I think you're right. But it would be nicer if he said "you little shit" after every
Yes.
line.
And then I prefer Vanessa Redgrave to, I don't know who plays her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not memorable.
Yeah.
But Vanessa Redgrave is.
And Jacqueline Bisset looks extraordinarily beautiful, and actually so does Michael York. But actually, I prefer the young actress who plays that role. Whom
Daisy Ridley.
yeah, I prefer because she actually does something. She creates something.
There's a lot of force.
Yeah, with her character.
That's a Star Wars joke.
Well, she gives this impression of a drug-addled kind of mess of a person.
Oh no, sorry, no, you're quite right. Not Daisy Ridley. The girl we mentioned earlier, I forget her name.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, the Countess. I was thinking of the governess.
the young actress.
Yes, you're quite right.
You know, and Sergei Polunin.
Well,
I mean, it's just a question of taste. I mean, I think he's beautiful, but actually, kind of Michael York is also giving an impression of a character that actually Sergei Polunin doesn't quite really. You know,
well, it's a bit different, isn't it? Sergei Polunin is really vicious and is just embodying kind of rage on behalf of his wife, really.
yes,
Which Michael York is not quite. He's more protective.
yes. So yeah. Anyway, so that covers you know, the main cat. Well, except I prefer
Poirot.
Ingrid Bergman to Penelope Cruz, but only because Ingrid Bergman is given so much more to do.
Yeah, has a role.
Yeah, whereas Penelope Cruz has a few lines.
And of course, Poirot.
Yes. I like the way that Albert Finney does Poirot because he completely effaces himself to play the character. So you have this vain little fat man, you know, kind of hyper-conscious, really super vain, you know, and in doing so, in kind of, in a way, erasing himself as a star and just playing the character, he allows the other stars to shine. Whereas I think Kenneth Branagh does the opposite. Kenneth Branagh makes the whole film about Poirot, really. Whereas actually this kind of film, by definition, should be an all-star film. Everybody should be given a chance to shine. Everybody should be given their moment because that's what you go to see.
I don't think they're not exactly given a chance to shine, but they're given less of a chance to shine. It's certainly the case that these films are approaching it very differently.
Yes, they are.
But I really appreciate the way that the new film approaches it, and like I said, I think the resolution when it comes to the so when Poirot in this film says I've decided to tell the police that it was just a lone killer and not to implicate all of you.
Yes.
It's not handled as well. I don't think.
well,
it's a little bit more perfunctory. Well, quite a lot more perfunctory.
I agree with you. That moment is handled better in the first film. But what do you think of the direction of the film as a whole?
Well, again, well, I suppose that's going slightly back to the question of the way the world feels kind of lived in and the way that shots are staged in depth. I think it's certainly of its time. I don't think you really make a film like this these days. You wouldn't choose even kind of quote unquote default shots which aren't hugely imaginative of kind of two characters talking or whatever. They're of a kind of 70s style, like a camera's on a tripod, sitting back. You kind of see everything in front of you.
Aside from each being a film of their own period.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think my way through it, but I think that the actors are not terrifically well directed, actually, particularly Albert Finney, who I think, especially in the summing up scene, is very one note and shouting just the whole way through.
Yes, I don't know.
I think the actors seem to direct themselves.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I mean, for me, the second film is vastly better directed. This Lumet film is vastly better directed than the Branagh film, in all kinds of ways, really. I mean, not only the staging and depth, but the drawing attention to the character.
Its control of pace and the tone is much tighter.
Yes, absolutely. And it's true I mean, I don't know. The performances, there are vastly superior ones in the '74 version. I mean, I think the only one that I really love so much more in
new
the
one.
Branagh version is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Really, like, everybody else is at least as good or better in Murder on the Orient Express.
I think that Josh Gad is better than Anthony Perkins, which is not
No,
easy
no,
for me to say,
I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you.
because Anthony
But that,
Perkins is a great actor, and Josh
Well,
Gad is a bit annoying.
Anthony Perkins always plays the twitchy, nervous psycho, So,
But it is like what you were saying, the actors, they either play with it or they play against it.
yeah, and he was very much with it, Okay, last words on this film, on the 1974 version.
I really enjoyed it. I want to watch it again when I'm talking less over it, but I kind of sunk into it.
Yes.
And I liked it. I do think there are things that the new film does do better.
I think you must have really liked it because, half an hour in or 45 minutes in, you shut up and just focused.
No, sure. Well, I also figured I was kind of slightly annoying you by talking, but
well, you were because I wanted to pay attention.
Yeah, no, sure.
To what the actors were doing. But I think you also sunk into it.
I absolutely.
You felt less of a need.
But I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are things I particularly, as I said to you, I particularly prefer the way that the new film handles the discovery of the body scene.
Yes.
Because in this film, I think, although as you say, this is an element of Poirot's character, really, he's kind of showing off immediately in this film, in the '74 film. He's saying, it's like he's got so much control over the crime scene just when they've discovered the body. He's already picking up clues and he's going, and now we come to the clue, which I assume will be the final one that we find. And it's like, whereas the new film, the new Poirot, he's in control of the crime scene, but he's not. He's not demonstrating, kind of, or not demonstrating, but he's not, playing it up. He's saying, "Don't touch the body, don't do this. We're going to find clues. We're going to pick up this."
But one of the things,
in a less show way.
One of the things I just want to underline is that, everybody knows Poirot, right? In the 1974 version, you knew him just from all the Agatha Christie novels. In this version, you know him from the novels, the television show, the previous films, right? So in a way, one has to play the character. And one of the things that I really did not like about the contemporary version was the insertion of those action scenes. The kind of turning Poirot into a bit of an action hero, right? The things you liked.
The chase with Josh Gad.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say I liked that. I just said it was different.
Yeah, I
did like the avalanche, the storm and an avalanche that knocks the train off track, because I mean, that's not a scene where Poirot becomes a hero. That's like a cosmic justice thing of, we're going to sit here until this gets figured out. But actually, it's really no different than this. They get stuck by a snowdrift. It's just not done with CGI.
Yeah, and actually, the not being done with CGI, to me, is important. Like, those shots of Istanbul, like it feels like Istanbul rather than a drawn backdrop of Istanbul.
But actually, I don't know if it was or not in this.
But it doesn't matter whether you know that it's Istanbul or not.
What I mean is, in the new one, I felt it was there. I didn't suspect it was CGI in the background. And do we know that they didn't go to those locations?
Yes. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I can guarantee it.
No, you can't guarantee it though. I mean, this is a film that they took the time and expense
drawn in.
This is a film that they took the time and expense to shoot on 65mm. They don't do that for no reason.
You can look it up, and I bet you that Istanbul was drawn in or backdropped.
I mean, I will look it up because there's no reason not to right now.
Yeah.
Where was Murder on the Orient Express?
It was all Shepperton.
Most of it was shot on sound stages in the backlot in London.
It looks.
The voyage begins in a building loosely inspired by a railway station in Turkey, but it doesn't actually say whether it was.
It's all CGI. You can even tell from the shots, from those pictures that you're seeing now.
No filming took place in Turkey.
Okay, so that answers it. No filming took place in Turkey.
Did filming take place in the mountains, though?
Well, we're specifically talking about those shots in Istanbul, which to me just looked like a backdrop. Was actually looking at this 1974 version. You can tell it's real. You can tell the way that the sun is hitting the Bosphorus.
There's a flashback shot on location in Malta. So I mean, you're right for particularly for Istanbul.
Yeah.
But I mean, It looked fine to me, and I liked it.
Well, what I'm saying is that actually the filming on location adds something. You know, and particularly the inserting of the characters in that landscape. You know, it's something that I really liked about the 1970s film. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, well, fair enough. But I still like the avalanche scene in the new one. I think it's, you know, it adds drama. It's like, oh, we're stuck here. The train's on the thing.
Okay,
You know.
Summarize. Last words on just quickly off the top of your head on the 1974 version.
It's good. I don't know what you want from me. It's not a case of better or worse. There are things that I prefer, and there are things I prefer about the new one. It's
Okay.
I would probably prefer to watch the new one a second time, to be honest. I think I like its style more, but I also will watch this one again.
Okay, well, we kind of agree, but we don't, because, you know, I do think there are good things about both, but I think the 1974 is a vastly superior one.
Well, you're old.
I did see it the first time it came out.
You are of its time.
But I don't think. But I watched it with you now.
I don't even necessarily disagree with you. There's a difference between being superior and being a film that you want to watch again.
Yes. Well, I think it's superior, and I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
So actually, as I said earlier, I would, you know, if the Branagh version shows up on television on a Sunday afternoon, I'll watch it again.
And as we said, they tease right at the end of the new one. They tease Death on the Nile.
Yes.
I don't think they will make a sequel, but
I hope they make it.
They tease it, but we both said if they do one with Branagh and in this new style, we'd like to see it.
Okay, that's a good note to end on.